Welcome everyone to the inaugural Mabel Experience event. Hopefully this is the first of many, and we could not be more excited to welcome so many of you from around the world to come together. And we have a ton of great content lined up for you over the next 7 hours or so. We have 14 sessions, as Katie mentioned, 7 round tables, 26 speakers that include practitioners, executives, Mabel engineers, Mabel support people, marketers, salespeople, and otherwise. And there are hundreds of you from around the world on the line. It's also a very diverse group of attendees. Many of you are QA or testing practitioners. Many of you are developers. We have automation engineers, product managers, product owners, agile coaches, scrum masters, project managers, and more. There's also a diverse group in terms of seniority. We have many individual contributors, many leaders, architects, managers, and importantly, many senior leaders, directors, VPs of engineering, chief technology officers, CEOs. In that latter group, it's very important because I think they recognize now the moment that we have in QA. Izzy Azari, my co-founder, and I, when we started the company nearly 4 years ago, we didn't have a background in quality assurance. And we were excited to find a community that on one hand has been underserved with innovation over the past 10 to 15 years. And on the other hand, a community of millions of practitioners who are passionate, who are open, who are inquisitive, who are supportive, who want to participate in the next era of software development. And I think we all now recognize that QA is going to play a central role in so many of the key trends in the software development industry. Whether you're trying to move your application from on-premise to the cloud, or from packaged, installed software to software as a service, or to embrace DevOps, continuous integration, and continuous delivery. The key in many of these endeavors is to ensure that we're able to deliver with quality. And when Izzy and I started the company, what we found was teams that were struggling with that balance. They were struggling to transition from an old way of doing things to a new way of doing things without having the tools and support that they needed to make that transition. Many of them were testing with manual testing exclusively and struggled to keep up as the development team pushed more and more changes faster and faster. Many of them saw the potential for test automation, but struggled with the fact that the automation frameworks that were available were complex and required specialized skills and significant maintenance effort. And so we set out to create a solution that would address that for these teams. Our first idea was to make testing and test automation more accessible. And what we mean by that is something that the entire software team can participate in. We also wanted to help teams focus on delivering quality experiences to their customers, moving beyond strictly testing the quality of the code to testing the quality of the customer experience. We wanted to ensure that you could embed quality across the entire team's workflow. We've known for 40 years that the sooner that we can inject quality, the better the result. And then finally, we wanted to create a platform that would allow teams to continue to improve over time, incrementally, deliver better and better results for their organizations. And that's where the Mabel product that so many of you know and love came from. We've created a product where it's easy to create automation for anyone, where it's a lot less effort to maintain automated tests, owing largely to the intelligence built into the platform. We run tests largely in the cloud in order to deliver maximum scalability and performance, and also to support collecting, processing, analyzing large amounts of test data so that we could deliver insights back to our users about the quality of their applications and their efforts in testing. And then finally, we've invested significantly in ensuring that you can integrate Mabel at every step in your software development lifecycle. It starts when a developer is working on a local branch of their machines, and it doesn't end until we're confirming that the quality of the customer experience in production remains high. We've been excited to see over the last 3 years broader recognition of this trend and this new era of testing within the industry. Gartner last year came out and said that they expect that by 2024, 3/4 of enterprises will be using intelligent test automation tools such as Mabel. This year, we were also excited to be included in the Forrester Wave for test automation, and we were excited to be recognized as a strong performer in a category where most of the other vendors have been in the market for 10 years or more. But it's about a lot more than technology and innovation. Since the beginning, knowing that our customers would need to make this transition over a long period of time and that transition is a very human activity, we've invested significantly in support, not only with the frontline customer support people that you work with day in and day out, but we have support as a core value across our entire company. And so whether you're dealing with sales, product, engineering, solutions architecture, marketing, or otherwise, you can expect Mablers to have a spirit of supporting you in your journey. And in fact, when we talk to customers about, what do you love most about using Mabel, in addition to the ease of use, probably number 2 is that they'll say is usually a person. It's Cornell, it's Daryl, it's Max, it's Naren, it's Preston, it's Reed, right? And to hear that the best part of the experience is that support from many customers is very reassuring. And we're also challenged to now support customers all over the world. If we look at our last 1,000 logins, we have representation across 6 continents. Of course, we have significant usage in the United States and in Western Europe, but nearly as much in other parts of the world, including Japan, where we have a strong and thriving Mabel community. And if I were to fast forward 6 months, I'd expect to see probably more users in Japan than most other parts of the world. And we're excited that so many of our customers from Japan have stayed up late tonight to join the session or will listen in tomorrow. We're now operating at significant scale. So we're running millions of tests. We have thousands of active users. We're testing thousands of applications. So if you're curious as to whether we've needed to automate testing for your particular new UI framework, the chances are that the answer is yes. And boy, have we had to deal with a lot of edge cases within those applications over the years. We're connecting to and testing thousands of environments every day, including environments that live behind a firewall, thanks to our secure tunneling solution. And we process an incredible amount of data, 1,000 observations per second. An observation might be a measurement, a DOM snapshot, a screenshot, a log file, or otherwise. And we're able to process that information in real time in the cloud. And we're also continuing to invest and innovate and move quickly, hundreds of commits per week of changes to our product to continue to innovate on your behalf. And we try to do a good job of listening to you as our customers. As you know, we survey all of our users at least quarterly, and there are many other mechanisms for us to collect input. If you don't respond to our quarterly customer surveys, I'd encourage you to do so. It is the most important input to our planning and prioritization process. But if I were to summarize this one piece of feedback from just 2 weeks ago, I think summarizes the trends across all of the responses pretty well. When asked what you like most about Mabel, people point to the ease of use, the fact that we engage with you as humans and try to satisfy your needs, that we help align with your organizational goals and get everybody involved in automation rather than it living within a silo. And then the fact that, you know, when you use Mabel, you get to experience new features at a pretty fast pace. But it all starts with making testing more accessible, easy, efficient, right? And that started with the low-code framework that we created that you experience using the Mabel trainer, which is what you use to author tests. We back that up with significant investments every week, every quarter in improving the user experience, and then support, as we mentioned, rich documentation, and then increasingly training. So we'll soon announce our second self-paced training course, and we have a great lineup of additional training behind that. And then if you haven't been to our blog recently, I would check it out. We're publishing much more content, both from Mablers and from our customers on the blog about best practices and ways that you can improve your test automation. But nobody has embodied this idea of making testing accessible and bringing more people into the fold of test automation. Nobody's done that better than NCR. And with that, I'm thrilled to welcome Natalie Charlot from NCR.
Thank you, Dan. A pleasure to be here. Mabel is surely an experience. Love the name of this conference, Experience Mabel. I am a test management office leader at NCR. NCR is actually headquartered in Atlanta, Georgia, in the Midtown area, right across from the Georgia Tech buildings. NCR is the world's enterprise technology leader for restaurants, retailers, and banks, the #1 global POS software provider for retailer and hospitality, with over 30,000 employees in approximately 160 countries. I would like to take a few minutes to pretty much share my Mabel experience. So we pretty much purchased Mabel late last year, and we began our implementation of Mabel early in Q1, where we introduced Mabel to the first 3 application teams during the pilot phase. After the pilot phase, we developed a comprehensive readiness plan to ensure that the teams understood what it means to be automation ready. Each team needed a test automation leader before we would begin the implementation activities. Then they would attend 2 to 3 hours of Mabel training and develop a test execution plan. And during the summer, my team trained and introduced 12 interns on Mabel. And because of the codeless automation capabilities, the interns were able to easily pick up Mabel and automate 10 applications altogether. They actually scripted 131 tasks in just 4 weeks. The interns' involvement accelerated our implementation, which was a big win for both the application teams and the TMOI team. Our leaders have realized that our BAs, systems analysts, or manual testers have direct access to an automation tool, which allow them to be self-sufficient with no reliance to an automation test engineer, which is amazing. Just a few things I'd like to close on the next slide. Keep an open mind when you're actually implementing Mabel. Don't limit automation access to just automation test engineer. Allow your project team members, such as your BAs, your SAs, your manual testers, to use Mabel. It is very important to actually have a clear automation goal before beginning your Mabel implementation. Define your roles, your automation test leaders, who are they, your trainers, etc., before you begin the automation process. Last but not least, start with your high value scenarios. You don't want to start automating without prioritizing the scenarios that will bring you the highest value. I hope you all have the opportunity to experience Mabel like we have been at NCR. With that said, Dan, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you very much, Natalie. And for sure, you and your team at NCR have achieved outstanding results, and it's been a pleasure to partner with you and look forward to continued partnership. What I would say is The results at NCR have actually been very consistent with the results that we've seen at other customers. It starts with enabling teams to achieve the test coverage that they need faster, an order of magnitude faster than they would have or have historically with other frameworks. The second is that reduction in test maintenance. So fewer false positives, less editing that needs to happen when you change your application. And then finally, dramatically reducing the amount of time that goes into regression testing overall. Right? Now, these savings teams use in different ways. Some teams use it to just continue to build out more and more coverage than they've ever been able to historically. Other teams are able to shorten the dedicated time that they have for testing so that they can allocate more time to development, while other teams are able to reduce budget, reduce the amount of expense that they have. And we won't stop here. So we continue to innovate, and we're excited to continue to receive good feedback from our users. We hear themes like, Mabel's helped me go from 0 to 100, reduce cost savings by reduce costs by 80%. Importantly, promoting QA throughout the organization, as we talked about before, eliminating that silo. And then finally, release new features and bug fixes faster. Right? So those are the themes that we continue to hear. But we're not stopping. So we were excited last week. If you didn't catch it, we released a very important but subtle new capability, and I'll take you through that briefly. One of the most challenging things in intelligent testing is actually dealing with tables and grids in cases where you have elements that repeat on your page. And it's not hard to work with these types of elements. The hard part is knowing what your intent is. So here I have a table of objects. I've actually just created the fourth object on this table. Now, when I create a test for that table, the system by default doesn't really know whether my intent is to work with the fourth thing in this list or this particular object that I just created, right? And that's been the source of, a fair amount of maintenance in the past, because there was really no way for Mabel to automatically discern that. And so you would have to oftentimes resort to specifying selectors for those types of elements. Well, last week we released a new feature that, importantly, when you try to interact with that element as you're creating your test, will recognize in advance that Mabel needs more context in order to, with confidence, execute the test. And so we'll tell you that actually there are a number of elements that match the selectors that I have for this element that you just worked with, and I need you to tell me why you chose the element. And so you're prompted in real time, and this prevents you from having a test failure, which will limit the amount of time that it takes to create that test to begin with, and of course, reduce your maintenance effort in the future. And so here, I provide Mabel with the clue that it needs. Mabel then is confident that I have to select actually the object that I'm creating in the test, and we proceed from there. So that's one example of where we're continuing to invest in innovation to make testing easier. And now I'd like to welcome Juliette McPhail to talk about another key innovation in that realm.
Thanks, Dan. As Dan mentioned, my name is Juliette McPhail, and I'm a product manager here at Mabel. I've been with the company for about a year and a half, and my team is primarily working on developing Mabel's new desktop application, which I'm very excited to share with you all today. So as you may know, the primary method for creating tests in Mabel is through the Mabel Trainer, which is available as a Chrome extension. So for this desktop application, we are using the Electron framework, which you might be familiar with if you've used Slack or VS Code. By taking training outside of the Chrome extension, you are no longer limited or hindered by browser state interfering with your testing. So this app presents a new platform for training tests in Mabel and a launchpad for innovation by allowing us to be more flexible in how we build Mabel. What we'll be focusing on primarily today is how this app significantly improves the test creation and execution experience. So that includes stateless training, faster unified test runs, and local headless execution. So this work is incredibly exciting, and it's only the jumping off point for a number of new initiatives. So in addition to browser-based testing, this app will also allow us to expand beyond the browser. So the best way to really talk about the desktop app experience is by showing you. As you can see here, right now I have the Mabel UI wrapped inside of the desktop app. This sits inside of a separate window from the browser. So the app will be available across operating systems, including Linux, Mac OS, and Windows, and will update automatically when new updates are available. But the most significant changes you'll see here is in how the trainer is presented. So when a new session is created, you'll be placed in a clean, stateless browser. If you've used the Mabel command line interface before, you might be familiar with that training experience. And unlike the experience of the Chrome extension, you do not have to worry about cookies, browser state, or other browser windows interfering with your training session. And as you can see here, the trainer is actually no longer inside of the browser. It exists as a completely separate window. You'll still have all of the functionality that you know and love, but there are a couple of key improvements. So for example, since the trainer exists in a separate window, you do not have to worry about the Chrome extension stealing focus from your application when training or being limited by the size of the trainer window. And this new trainer can actually be resized alongside of your browser. And this gives us the opportunity and the real estate to vastly improve the trainer experience. So this new trainer uses a framework called Puppeteer, which I'll actually come back to in just one moment. So let's talk about executing tests. A large part of this effort is to unify Mabel's existing tool set to ensure that there is a consistent method for executing tests both locally and in the cloud. So Puppeteer allows us to have a more modern execution implementation that works towards that goal. And in addition to cloud runs and replaying in the trainer, there's another important method for executing tests, and that is local runs. You can currently run tests locally using Mabel's command line interface, and you can now actually launch these runs directly from the desktop app. So these local runs can be executed both headlessly or headfully. The headful runs will launch the browser on your desktop and play through all of the steps in your test. And the headless runs actually operate pretty similarly, but they eliminate the overhead of browser instances. So you'll see the output similar to the output in the command line interface. And local runs dramatically speed up the test execution by running these tests behind the scenes. So while these local runs do not give you all the diagnostic information that cloud runs do, such as screenshots, DOM snapshots, and HAR files, it's a really great way to get quick feedback on your tests without contributing towards your cloud runs. So the desktop app is actually available now. Please sign up for our early access program if you'd like to give it a try. We expect this to be on the default mode for training in the next few months, and this is really just the beginning of this work. We can't wait to show you all the new ways that the desktop app will improve your testing experience.
Thank you very much, Juliette. We could not be more excited about the new trainer and how immediately I think you'll realize that it makes it easier for you to create, edit, and run your tests. Importantly, it is the fact that it provides us with a new canvas that we'll use to continue to innovate now that we've broken out from the browser. And the theme there, again, will be how do we help you ensure quality across your entire customer experience? This has been a theme for us since the very earliest days of Mabel, right? The canonical use case when Izzy and I started the company was to think about how can we make it as easy as possible for people to create a test that logs into a web application, checks the balance of your account, and ensures that that balance is correct, as an example. What we quickly realized was that even that simple test didn't really describe the end-to-end customer journey, right? Because many customers receive the notice about a new statement being available in their email. And so they want to actually begin to test that journey in an email and then go to a website to log in, check the balance. But actually, to confirm that the balance is correct, you may need to submit a call to an API and assert that the response is correct. Right? But here I'm downloading my account, right? My account statement, and that might be in a PDF. And so I also want to verify that the PDF is correct. And this idea of an end-to-end customer journey that isn't restricted to just a web application is central to our innovation. And that's why we've added support for email testing and API testing and PDF testing over the past year. With API testing, it's important to note that we've been able to make API steps as part of end-to-end tests. Those API steps still happen within a browser as part of a test that's largely browser-driven. But what we found, surprisingly, was that many of our customers took that API step capability and would create their own end-to-end API tests, right? And so you imagine that this is a test that, again, is running in a browser, that all that it does is communicate with APIs. So it would perhaps connect to an API to create an object, and then make another API call to verify that that object was created, and then trigger some asynchronous job that might take a couple minutes and then verify the results. And as we started to see this pattern, we realized that customers were trying to test their end-to-end APIs using Mabel. And that's part of a broader trend, right, where people want to treat APIs as a product, right? Not only due to their complexity, but due to their importance, right? They're no longer middleware for so many companies. So many companies are part of the API economy and offering APIs to their customers and their partners as a core part of their product. And so we've challenged ourselves to think about that problem. And with that, I'm excited to welcome Anton to talk about our new innovation in this space.
Thank you, Dan. And hello, everybody. I'm Anton. I work as a product manager at Mabel. I've been with Mabel for about 2 years now. And overall, I've been in the software development and delivery space for over 10 years. And I'm super excited today to talk to you about what the team has been working on to make API testing accessible to everybody on your team. And when we say API testing here, we mean running end-to-end API tests outside of the browser context. And historically, API testing has been primarily done and conducted by the engineering team, because in order to do it, you had to write code in Java, Python, PHP, you name the framework or the programming language. And so at Mabel, we've taken on a quest to make API testing accessible to non-technical members of the team and pretty much everybody who is part of delivering a product that can involve UI, API, and other parts of the technology stack. And to make this possible, we're now allowing people to create API tests without having to write code, as historically has been the case. Now, you can use API tests to significantly augment your browser testing. One quick example here is to take advantage of the speed and the reliability of API tests to quickly create test data in your environments so that your browser tests can always run on a pristine environment. And then you can clean up that data using APIs at the end after your browser tests are done. That way, every time you have a clean environment and you create that testing data in seconds instead of hours. Now, by doing so, you can also mix and match API tests in Mabel within the same testing plan so that you can pass variables from your API tests to your browser tests, from your browser tests to your API tests to increase coverage and accomplish very complex testing scenarios that may touch different aspects of the technology stack. And once you have created all these tests in your Mabel workspace, the best thing to do is to integrate them in your CI/CD pipeline so that you run them at every step of your pipeline. So what we mean by that is you can take advantage of the existing out-of-the-box integrations that Mabel offers for tools like GitHub Actions, Bitbucket Pipelines, CircleCI, you name it. And you can start running your API tests on every deployment very quickly with Mabel. Now, once you run the tests, what do you want to see? Well, you want to see results. So we're excited to bring unified reporting across your UI and API tests in a single place, where in Mabel, you can see when you have a deployment event, how many of your browser tests passed, how many of your API tests passed, and then you can troubleshoot those. But now, you don't have to start from scratch. I know many of you are already Postman users and have existing API requests in the form of Postman collections. And I'm super excited to let you know that we've integrated Mabel with Postman in a very native bidirectional way where you can easily import API collections from Postman to Mabel and then from Mabel back to Postman so that you can collaborate across the entire team regardless of the tool that's being used by the person. And so with this, I want to show you a quick demo of what that integration with Postman looks like. So here, what we are going to see is we have a sample Postman collection. We can run a request on our local machine. We get the response back. We have a few assertions that can validate the response. We can choose to run that entire collection locally on our machine using the Postman application. Or in this case, we're just going to go and export that Postman collection as a JSON file on our machine. And then we're going to bring that collection with API requests into Mabel. And the way we do that is we go to the Mabel app and click to create a new API test. And once we do that, what we're going to do here is we're going to give it a name for this test, similar to you're going to create, just like you're creating any other tests in Mabel. We're going to assign it a specific testing plan, such as smoke tests, regression tests. And when we click to edit the steps, here, all we need to do is just import that file that we just exported. And what will happen is Mabel will take your API requests and convert them into native Mabel API tests. So here we can see the test details with the respective requests. We can see what we're passing through the request body. We also bring any assertions that you may have in Postman into Mabel or variables. And now we can run that test here in the Mabel cloud. An interesting part to note here is that if you already have secure tunneling configured for your Mabel environment, this API test would work with that secure tunnel. So there's no additional configuration needed on your part to add API testing to your workspace. So once the test runs successfully, we can see that it took only 9 seconds to run. And if we examine one of the requests here, we can see detailed logs that are specific to APIs, such as all the headers, the body that got sent, all the response headers and the response body, including status code, time, and so forth. Now, the true power for API tests here with Mabel lies in the ability to add them to different testing plans. You can schedule those plans to run every hour to monitor your environment. You can run them on deployment, and you can mix and match browser tests and APIs in the same plan. And I'm super excited to let you know that all this is available under early access today. And I'll hand it over to Dan to talk to you about what's remaining for the keynote.
Thank you very much, Anton. And I will highlight that early access program at mabl.com/early-access. You can request access to the API testing feature here. You can request access to the new Mabel desktop app and to our CI runner, which allows you to run Mabel tests inside of your CI system. Now, API testing is an important part of our goal of enabling you to effectively test across your entire customer experience, and you should expect to see more innovation from us in that area. Now, through the keynote, you've learned about a few new things that you likely want to try, and throughout today, you'll learn about new features, new and evolving practices, and new ways of being as effective as possible in your quality journey. What I would encourage you to do is think of it as just that, and that no matter where you are kind of on the continuum from a quality perspective, whether you're looking to move from manual testing to test automation, or from some automation to full automation, or you have a lot of automation already in place and you're thinking more about how can I improve the effectiveness of my efforts, there should be something here for you today. And so the other thing that I would stress, especially for the leaders in the virtual room here, is that when test automation efforts struggle, sometimes it's a function of the testing, but just as often it's because we're not investing enough in other areas, like making sure that we have really flexible deployments and ability to make test environments available as early as possible in the process, or that we have team members across the team are able to build and use branches, and that we have good test data available. So test automation, sort of fits into a broader theme, especially for those of you who are on the continuous delivery sort of spectrum, which emphasizes the other key point, and that's that quality is a team sport. We need to be in a position where QA practitioners and developers and architects and leaders are speaking the same language and have the same view, and that we're eliminating silos. And so that's why we're working so hard to make sure that this is accessible across the entire team and life cycle. And finally, I'd say we're in this with you. As I mentioned, support is something that we are very focused on, and we're happy to help. If you ever need help, please do reach out to us via the in-app chat on the website or in the Mabel web application. And we have a growing and increasingly active community called Friends of Mabel on Slack. If you'd like to get an invite to the Friends of Mabel community, just reach out to us in the in-app chat and we'll get you the invite.